This company's never been more profitable.
You mean hugely profitable?
I like it.
DavePorter.com presents The Profitable Cleaner, a podcast on commercial cleaning sales and entrepreneurship. The one podcast that's not afraid to discuss real sales strategies with real cleaning professionals that produce real profits and real results.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Profitable Cleaner podcast. I'm riding solo today. I'm James Harper, but I'm not riding solo when it comes to guests. We actually have two guests on this show, and I'm super excited to be speaking with them, and I know you're going to get a ton of value from Gavin and Mike. So just so I don't butcher any introductions, Gavin, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourselves and tell us a little bit about Zoe. I'm interested to learn more of the story. So Gavin, I'll pass it to you first, and then we'll toss it over to Mike.
Great. Yeah. My name is Gavin Scott-Miller. I'm the director of operations here. I've been in and out of the industry before. I used to work as a cleaner back in the day. Kind of worked through management, went to college a little bit. So I'm here doing ops now.
I'm Mike Ward. I'm the operations manager here. I was in the U.S. Navy, worked a couple jobs, went to college. I have one more semester to go still, but we'll get there. Ended up here with Zoe, applied as a cleaner just for a part-time thing, and then management spot was open, then another one was open, and here we are.
Here we are. That's exactly kind of how it all starts. I'm actually going to my first question, because Mike, you kind of went into your story a little bit. This is actually for Gavin. When we're in like second grade, sitting in class, no one raises their hands and says, "Hey, I want to be in the janitorial industry," right? So, Gavin, I know that you kind of have some history with Zoe Facility Services. Unpack that. Take me back to the early days and kind of where you got to now, or how you got there.
Yeah, so I worked as a cleaner 15 and 16 in high school. The owner, he was my youth pastor at the time. And so he was, at the scale and the size of, asking local guys that he knew. So that's how I got into that, just helping out basically as a friend. It's one of those things where I didn't even think I was going to be in operations. Actually, my degree is in information technology. And so, like a lot of people, you get those degrees and then they don't mean a lot. It's not like I sit there and dream to be a janitor or building service contractor or anything. It's definitely about how can I help people? And this is just one of those ways that works, right? So,
yeah, I always find it interesting how people entered the industry. Right. And typically, Mike, just to give you some insight, brother, there's more often than not, I hear stories on the show about, I was in college and then there was this cleaning company. I got in. Next thing you know, they're a manager. Next thing you know, they're like on leadership and you're 20 years into it. Right. It's like an industry that like slowly sucks you in. So today's show, I really want to focus on operations. It's not every day that I get two operational experts on this show. You guys have some unique insight, and we were talking last week about some things you guys have in place. I'm going to ask you guys a question that I asked you last week. What does operational excellence mean to you when it comes to running a janitorial company? I'll let you go first, Gavin, and then Mike, I'd be curious to your thoughts after Gavin.
Yeah, operational excellence, I think in a janitorial, but really just in any industry, I think it first and foremost boils down to service delivery. Clients pay us to do a service, and are they happy with the service that they got? Obviously that means different stuff to different people, but the way that it works itself out is, are you doing a good job or are you not doing a good job, is going to be based on like processes, systems that you've developed, just really making sure that you're delivering for those clients and actually giving them the product that they need, being nimble on your feet, being able to develop and grow as you to meet those needs of those clients.
Absolutely, man. I think that's really well said. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that, man, when it comes to operational excellence?
everything Gavin said, obviously, but what immediately comes to mind for me is specifically our product and how well we can tackle growth. I know just before we started, we were talking about the leaky bucket analogy. You keep getting more growth, but it doesn't matter if your operations are, I don't want to step on any toes, if they're not doing so great, they can't handle the growth. It's just the growth is pouring out and you're constantly trying to fill it. Operations efficiency is being able to take on new growth and, as well as retaining different employees, managers. We see a lot of people cycle in and out. Normally it's cleaners, but oftentimes we get managers that cycle in and out. A huge indicator of success is when people stay, when managers specifically stay, because managers have the brunt of what's actually going on in the company. So if they're happy with that, they'll stay. And I think that's a huge sign of success.
I think you just actually hit on something big there, and I'm going to actually repeat it for everyone listening. Like, how do you measure success in operations? It's like actually maybe retainment of employees, retainment of managers, because they have a clear indication on how to do their job and how to fulfill what their responsibility is. So let's actually talk about that a little bit. So I know obviously you guys have seen some growth over the years. How do you guys keep, number one, your managers engaged, and then how do you keep like your cleaning techs, your frontline people, making sure that they are following the process and everything is solid, so you don't have that leaky bucket when you're experiencing the growth?
That's a great question. So if you don't mind me starting off a little bit. So it's a really good indicator. I think you kind of mentioned, hey, what's your retention rate? So for your employees, for your managers, for your clients, that's a great indicator if you're having excellence of service, right? So employees in our industry, janitorial, the turnover rate is 350%. At least those are somewhat recent ISSA numbers. I don't know how recent those are. That's astronomical. So, another way to view that is in one calendar year, you might have 4 janitors in the same role. Like that can be really frustrating for managers. You're able to try to find and hire and vet all those people. It's obviously frustrating for the clients too. Like those things can be hurdles for everybody to go over, right? So investing in those cleaners, making sure that they know that we care about them, that they're important, that they're not just a commodity, they're not just another number, but that like they are important. The rung of janitorial in general is a society. It's easy to view that as a rung of society that's below others. Yeah. And that's a shame. That's terrible because that's actually a cornerstone of every society. Like you can't have a healthy and functioning society if you don't have people in the different places to actually push that through. So helping the cleaners and helping the managers understand that it's actually your job's not you're not unimportant. You're important. You're this cornerstone. You're helping whatever business you're at. If it's a school, you are help educating the next rung of kids in our nation, because you're going to help keep them clean so they can, or the facility clean so they can go and get educated and all that stuff. I won't go too deep into it. There's a quote from, I think it's John F. Kennedy during the whole space race thing. He's going through talking to all the janitors, or talking to everybody, trying to get about NASA and the moon landing and stuff. And he goes over and talks to a janitor, and he asks the janitor, "Hey, what do you do here?" The janitor doesn't say, "Oh, I'm cleaning toilets," or "Oh, I'm doing this or that." He says, "Sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." That's the kind of mentality that if you can lead that to your people, you've already won. That's all of it for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's so well said. Our frontline workers typically do get overlooked, and I do think like the people within an office building, let's say, don't like the janitor's kind of an invisible character within that building, and that's not good. I think it's our responsibility as cleaning professionals to educate our clients, our prospects, whoever, about the importance of that janitorial professional being in your facility. So I love that. The janitors helping put a man on the moon. Well said. I'm curious, Mike, for you, someone that hasn't been around as long as Gavin, what's something in this industry that you thought would be true that's not, or something that surprised you entering this industry that like you're like, man, I had no idea that this would be part of commercial cleaning?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there are two different levels. On the lower level, in terms of the cleaning, what surprised me, and I know probably everybody listening is going to be like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. But when I first got here, and what I'm seeing from a lot of our cleaners who have no experience in this industry, they first get here and they totally underestimate what it means to, be a part of a janitorial service, the expectation of the clean. People are paying a lot of money for you to, get everything up off the floor, empty all the trash cans. I mean, they're paying a lot of money for it to get done. And people don't realize that. They come in thinking, oh, it's just like my house. I'm just going to, this is cake. I'm going to go in and clean this building like I clean my house. And that's almost never the case. Almost always the case is you need to clean better than what you do at your house. That at least in my experience, that's what it's been. Now, from a managerial level, what surprised me is the unique difficulty in that you have to essentially manage people kind of depending on who your clients are, where your client base is, and I guess how far up the rung you are in terms of management. But from my point of view, it has been difficult to tackle the fact that everybody's so spread out. You have so many employees and they're all over the place. It's not like in fast food or really in most other industries, you see there's an issue with somebody or somebody needs help, something like that. They're right there in the building. You go up and you talk to them and you coach them through it, and it's no big deal. Same thing with your managers. You can see all your managers. You can see how they're coaching. You can see where people are going wrong. You can see all of these things because they're right in front of you. Whereas in this industry, none of it is in front of you. There's one person at this building. There are 4 people at this building over here. You have 2 managers over here, 1 manager over here. There are some concerns right here, concerns over here. You can't go everywhere yourself to find out and fix all of these problems. So that has been one of the surprises to me. It was a little more difficult of a challenge than I had originally thought. But the solution is, hiring good managers and following through with them and making sure that they follow through with everything. All the training, discipline is a big one. Not that you should go around, cracking the whip or whatever, but I think a lot of people fail to, at least from what I've seen, fail to hold the standard for one reason or another. I mean, it's just, you have to be a manager. This is a job. They're not your friends, although you can totally be friends with them. I don't care. But if you're working for us, the job comes first. And I think people fail to understand that oftentimes. They also they're afraid people are going to quit. So, because like we talked about the turnover, what you'll often hear is, I didn't want to write this person up, even though they totally should have been. They didn't want to write the person up because they're afraid this person might quit, and then we have an opening here, and it'll put more strain on, what our version of a traveling cleaner, which is crew support. And obviously we don't want to do that. But you just have to follow through. You have to follow through with discipline. Training, etc. You can't cut corners. You have to do it. Otherwise,
I think that's it.
Service delivery immediately if you don't.
Yep.
I think that's a good point. Their legendary Hall of Fame basketball coach of Duke basketball, Coach K, has a great quote. He's like, "We don't have rules, we have standards." And I think if you take that mentality as a business, you don't have rules, but you have standards. People buy into that. People follow rules, but people live to a standard. And that's kind of what I was hearing when you were talking there. And maybe let's go down that path a little bit more. So let's talk about the team aspect here. How do you guys, I like what you said, like the problem's not always in front of you because you have multiple locations, multiple people at different buildings. You don't always know what's what. Sometimes a lot of the times upper management's discovering the truth, right? And the truth's not always what we think. Like we think one customer's happy just to find out, no, they're not, although the manager thinks they are. How do you guys keep communication amongst your managers and your frontline workers? How do you guys kind of like all stay on the same page as Zoe?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, I think that's important. Like as long as everybody can understand that communication is key. It's absolutely key. Because you're right, your upper management, that's a tale as old as time. Yeah, no, that client's totally happy. And a week later, you get a notice of cancellation, right? Where did that come from? So, proactivity with communication is huge. Most people in our industry are not proactive with communication. Often that's a way to get a sale. Just walk in and say, when's the last time your janitor proactively asked you anything? Your janitor management. And honestly, they're gonna feel that because a lot of our industry doesn't really care about that. So having the same mentality of proactivity in your communication, that's the ground level there. Good meetings, those are awesome. Weekly, bi-weekly meetings, whatever makes sense for your guys' organization at the different levels. If you're large enough to have multiple levels of management, you might decide, hey, we'll have everybody once a month, and then just the ground level managers will meet once a week. Whatever works for you, you'll have to decide what you are at your scale. Obviously, group texts and chats, that's awesome too. Email threads, those are good ways to do that, as long as everybody's staying on top of that proactive communication, right? Like we don't need to find out a problem happened. We want to find out like as it's happening so we can help address it and all give our input. Multiple heads are better than one.
So we actually use a software that helps us out with it. I know there are a few out there, but the software is only a tool. It has to be used, and you have to make sure, again, we got to circle back around to the follow through. Like you have to make sure your managers are seeing the problem or seeing the task on the software, uploading updates. We have stuff that comes up that tells our managers to talk to a client or reach out to a client and see how they're doing and post an update on that. And it keeps track of, which clients are happy, which aren't so happy, which are kind of just coasting, that sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, it comes back around to utilizing the tool and making sure there's follow through. I'm constantly in there saying, hey, what's going on with this? What's the update on this thing? That, has produced pretty solid results.
Yeah, I think, I think constant communication is a good thing. I also think it's hard sometimes to get to our frontline people in a constant way. That's why yes, communication's key, but like engagement to me is almost better when we see engagement from our cleaning techs. And because we want to keep them engaged, like what Gavin said earlier, you want to make them feel important. And they're the boots on the ground. I want to talk about something, Gavin, you mentioned in a prior conversation last week. I don't remember it verbatim, but you were about to go down this path, and I think it's really well said. You said like data is important, right, to manage your operations, to make sure that quality controls in place. I can't remember exactly, but I think I had asked you like, well, what data are you looking at that's meaningful to Zoe? Can you kind of unpack that a little bit for me?
Yeah, no, I can't remember exactly what I was saying either, but I could totally hop on the data is important train right there. I love data. I love charts. I love bar charts and graphs, man. I could look at them all day. I think they're awesome because what they do is they help you understand where you actually are. It's really easy to go, I feel like our clients are happy, or I feel like we have pretty good turnover compared to our competitors, right? But unless you're actually looking at those facts, you don't actually really know where you stand. There's a lot of important, in the industry, they call them KPIs, key performance indicators, that you can look at to help you understand where you are. Inspection scores are great. Often it's hard to get a client to fill out a satisfaction survey once a month. Probably not going to do it. They got other stuff to do. They're important. That's why they hired you. They don't want to have to think about the cleaning. How can you understand if you're doing a good job? Inspect it yourself. Hire somebody to do it. Internally we have a third-party inspector, meaning they're not directly associated with the delivery of that specific client. So the managers can inspect each other's buildings from time to time, or this third-party guy comes in and helps inspect as well. It gives you a true points of if you are delivering consistently to a client. That's huge. Budget is huge in a KPI. Like, obviously, we're here to make money. Ultimately, we're satisfy our customers. But if we don't make money, we're not going to stay in business. Money's important. Those budgets are great. Inspections, turnover, both for your clients and for your employees. Those are all very important things.
That's so. You mentioned something I've actually never heard, and this could just me being very green on the operational side of things, which is why it's awesome we're talking to you today. A third-party inspector. I've never heard this. Talk to me about what is that? What does that company do? Like, how did that come part of the puzzle?
It's a part of our. He works for us.
Oh, gotcha.
Gotcha. So he or she will basically report to me.
Okay, cool. Well,
they won't go to the managers.
Talk to me about that strategy. Like what is their goal, and what are they like? Obviously, they're reporting on the inspections of the building, but talk to me about that setup. I know firsthand a lot of people in our network don't have a specific person running inspections. It's either the manager or the team lead, and we inspected it. It sounds like it's a little bit more intentional for you guys. Kind of talk to me about that, Mike.
Sure. So the idea initially came because we were doing inspections, but they were just not very good inspections. I mean, if you think about it, they're softball. You go in and they're it's like the manager goes in, he looks around, he's like, yeah, I'm doing a good job. I'll go ahead and let him know I'm doing a good job. And it's okay, how helpful is that? I mean, it's helpful in that it's not something that shouldn't be done. You should obviously still be sending in managers to do inspections and that sort of thing. Because at the end of the day, they're either, if it's an area manager or something a little more high up, they're familiarizing themselves with the building continuously in the facility. But also, if something was missed or something, they're going to go ahead and fix that or have somebody fix it on the spot. So regardless, it's really useful. But the third-party inspector, we had this idea because he or she is not beholden to the manager, and therefore it doesn't matter. There's no bias. The person is going to go in there and tell you if it's dirty or not, what's wrong with it, and be like, this is what I found. Yeah.
And the manager's not their boss, so they're not afraid of getting their boss in trouble, which can be a problem, or that's not the manager themselves whose performance review is based on if they have good scores. Right? Like when you go to do employee evaluation at the end of the year, well, how are you going to evaluate how well they've done? Probably one of those key performance indicators. So you're picking up the inspections. Well, I gave myself 100% of inspections every single time, or 98 to make sure it looks fair. It's not a problem that always happens, and a lot of people are honest and truthful, but it brings a level of above board, right? It helps everybody keep above board and understand what the real story is that you're seeing. So internally, it's just a person who's not directly associated with our operations team. They're kind of administration and they help out with that. But you could use a traveling cleaner, and maybe that traveling cleaner works directly for someone like Mike instead of working for that ground level manager. That way you kind of bypass, right? It's not the guy who's on site saying, yeah, everything looks good every time. You're getting extra eyes on it. I think that's what's important.
And you can scale it too. So, I mean, you can eventually, once you get to like somebody like Jordan Tong, that sort of level, I'm sure you're familiar. Jordan Tong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fran's Building Services.
Yeah. Sorry, Fran's Building Services. 20 million plus at this point, I'm sure. But once you get to that sort of level, you can totally scale and have that sort of little department, have a manager over the inspectors, and have a whole separate sector for just people going around and inspecting in that third-party sense and giving you accurate numbers. So that's how it came about. Seemed like a good idea. It's been working, and it's scalable.
And for some tips and tricks out there for the trade, you can totally pair this with other roles. Like, internally we have this floating cleaner, right? Or, we have like your filling cleaner if somebody calls off. Well, if that filling cleaner doesn't have anything to do tonight and maybe he's running around stocking buildings, delivering laundry, running people new equipment, well, he walks into that building anyways. Why not have him do a quick inspection? So all you have to do is make sure they know how to do that inspection to your standard. And there you go. So you don't have to go and hire an extra guy. You just train someone else who's in that operation who you can know doesn't really have any personal interaction with the outcome of those scores. That's the important piece.
I think that's so badass. I'm not sure you guys realize how much value you just shared to someone that might not have that strategy or something similar in place. And I was actually going to ask, is this a full-time job? But I like kind of the hybrid role of a floater and being an unbiased inspector. It gives them a little bit more purpose than just being a floater, right? And I also would imagine that if you are in a dual role, cleaning and inspecting, that automatically makes your cleaning better because you're inspecting other buildings that you don't necessarily work on. So interesting concept there, guys. I'm going to focus in on the people some more, especially from an operational standpoint. What does your guys' two-part question, I'll let whoever take it or both of you guys answer. What does your training look like for managers, and what does your training look like for like a day one janitor?
I'll let you talk about the day one janitor if you don't mind, but I'll jump in with manager for a minute. Cool. So, I think first and foremost, you want to really make sure you're investing in a great manager. It's something that I think we struggled with in the past, just through our history. Been in business 22 years. It's easy to kind of lose track of who your ideal guy is or gal, right? For a manager, right? You need somebody who's probably good at talking with clients. They need to be able to be good at talking with blue collar individuals. They're people good at talking with white collar individuals, like the clients themselves. So they're going to have to be multifaceted. They're going to be relatable to both types of people. They're going to probably want to have a little bit of this experience first. A manager for a janitor can be an entry-level job, but you don't want somebody who has no skills, because then you as the business owner or the manager, you're going to be teaching them those skills yourself. So you're going to be on time investment, right? So I think first and foremost, it's really good to start off with selecting who your ideal person is. Like it takes a little bit of effort to think through who exactly I want and don't want, but it helps you filter through some of those hires that maybe wouldn't be very sticky. Maybe somebody wouldn't, I don't want anything to do with talking to clients. Okay, well, you might struggle in this role. Or, I just love people so much, I just don't think I could discipline them well. Okay, well, this might not be great, because guess what? You're going to get attached with these people and 350% turnover rate. What are you going to do? So, I think selecting those people is important first and foremost. And then as you get into it, right? So in the industry, it's common knowledge, cleaning is not complicated. It's complex. There's a lot of different stuff, but it is not complicated. You can basically teach anybody how to clean a surface. It's not that hard. There is some science involved, but it's not rocket science. So it's something that you can teach. So often, when you're looking for a person, they don't actually have to have experience in the janitorial industry. Sometimes you'll actually be taking bad habits with them from one of your competitors, right? So, if you get somebody who just can know how to handle some of those management skills, good communication, caring for the people, consistency in their follow through, those are like really important things. And if those, you find out what those things are important for your company, that caring, communication, consistency, those are what's important to us. But for you, it may be ability to really talk with clients really well. So if you find somebody who's got those, you can teach them the rest of those skills. And then it's just up to you on deciding exactly what's important. Obviously, you want to start with making sure they know how to clean. as well, because they're going to be turning around and cleaning all your janitors and your cleaners. But we don't have like a necessary 14 steps and then you're a landed manager. I know there are a lot of other larger companies are really, really great at that. But I think sometimes it can be more simple with just selecting the kind of person you know is going to be able to pick up what you put down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would also piggyback on that and say managers can be expensive, but don't skimp out. That is just the, if we're being fully transparent, we just at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. And we, tried the low end for a while in terms of pay. So you're getting less experienced people. And so you get what comes from that. And I think management is so important in this industry. Making sure you have a solid foundation is so critical. And I learned that a little bit later because I was very focused on, trying to, work with the cleaner at the start, which is probably, I'm sure a ton of people are like, duh, that is obviously not the right way to, you need to focus on management first. But, and that's not to say not to care about the cleaner or anything. Everybody in your company should be very important and you should, try and help them out as best you can. But it's just logically speaking, it's much more important to have the foundation because ultimately the manager can hire more cleaners. The manager will train cleaners. The manager talks to clients. The manager is just so freaking important that you can't scan. You have to, in my opinion, you need to spend money.
And let me piggyback off that a little bit. Like another thing to note is there's economies of scale here, right? So if you have a janitor, in our industry, in our market right now, the going rate is like $12 to $14 for a cleaner, right? Just right now in 2023, that's what we're sitting at right now. That's the going rate typically.
Well, real fast, just tell people what market you're in because it's going to vary across.
We're California.
So, that's the going rate right now for a janitor. Where we're at. You could say if right now you're paying all your janitors like $12 an hour, okay, you could say, I'm going to invest in my cleaners and pay them all $13 an hour. Well, if you've got 100 cleaners, you've got 8 hours a day, 21 days a month, and giving all of those cleaners a $1 an hour raise is going to cost your company a lot of money in the long term. And are you really going to get that much higher quality of cleaner for one extra dollar an hour? You're not. Because guess what? We're all hiring from the same pool. Every single one of us, all of our competitors, we're all hiring the same janitors. But if you can take that same amount of money, or similar, probably even sometimes less amount of money, invest in a higher quality manager, that manager is going to lead down the chain of command too. So I'm not saying don't also give your janitors raises. You need to balance those things, right? But it helps that concept of scale of like $1 times 100 cleaners times 8 hours a day times 21 days a month. That's a lot of money. But if you could put a similar amount of money to give a little bit higher paid manager or a little bit higher quality manager, you're going to see those dividends come back on the back end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time.
I think, one thing that I hear a lot of that I like when it comes to like giving your frontline workers raises is I believe everyone should be out for growth, right? But like, hey, don't just give like a monetary raise in terms of like another $1 an hour, but can you actually provide them with a path of growth to like actually developing a janitorial person to become a manager? All of a sudden, it's like they're not focused on a $1 raise. They're focused on a life-changing jump to salary, but they're also focused on developing skill sets, and they've also been at the ground level. So that's kind of what I was hearing from you guys, because I think it's hard sometimes to get a manager from the outside that has no industry experience. Now, leaders are leaders, but like I've just seen so much success amongst other companies that hire within and train within, and then over time, 2 years in, that was a day one janitorial person 2 years ago. Now they're a badass manager, but they understand the game that they're playing in.
Yeah, at one point, maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, 100% of my management was internal promotions, including Mike, right? So I think internal promotions are great. When you have great quality candidates, show them a career path, man. Now, I'm not the kind of guy to dangle a carrot. I don't like that, but show them what could be if they deliver, right? So, some guy, they may not be super awesome at managing people. They may not really like to talk to people or not talk to clients. They may not have a career as a cleaner, but if you offer carpet cleaning services or window cleaning services, strip and wax, you could send them to some of those courses, get them certified, and that's actually a great career as a technician level cleaner with some of those skills under their belt. That whether they're a manager or some of those specialty cleaning services, there can be careers in lots of different ways. Yeah,
I think a lot of it is just being willing to grow and listen. So, some people, they just don't like the social aspects. They just don't like talking to people. They may be a great cleaner and a really hard worker, but it's just not their thing. And, it is what it is. But if you're subpar, if I can put it that way, but you're willing to try and you're willing to put in, the work to learn how to be a manager and everything, we totally really strive to do that. And provide that for anybody who wants it. Anybody. We've never said no. If you want help and trying to become a manager one day, not even with us, with somebody else, if you just want, we want to help you grow. If you're investing in us, we'd like to invest in you.
I think that says a lot about your guys' company. Obviously 22 years in business, like that's not an accident, and you have to have some sort of value system. Like I heard there, Mike, to be in business that long. And I think, Gavin, 100% of your managers at one point were internal hires. That shows that internal path of growth, which is awesome. I have 2 last questions for you guys here. One's a professional question, or it's actually probably going to be 3. And then the last one I'm going to end with is going to be more of a fun one. Quick question. Do you guys work with any subcontractors at all? All right. Yes. All right. I want to hold that thought, Gavin. I just wanted to make sure you guys did. I want to real fast, maybe give me a minute synopsis each. How do you guys manage and vet your subcontractors?
Cool. So I'd say it's probably less than 10% of what we do right now as subcontractors. We really try to choose a niche, who we are, what we're really good at, and we don't like to turn down business. So if there's something that comes in outside of that, well, that's when we're going to chat about maybe subcontracting it out. A great example might be hey, maybe your bread and butter is 5 night a week janitorial. Well, if somebody comes in, they have a 1 night a week service. That may be a great time to start talking about subcontracting out because you don't really know it. It's not your bread and butter, right? So that's kind of how we determine what is subcontracted and what's not. Is just internally what we're good at, what we can do. So that's that. So as far as managing them, I think it's just really good to get to know them. I think it may sound like a broken record. Vet them beforehand as well. Bring them into your office if you've got one, or meet them at a coffee shop. Chat with them for a while. See who they are. What are their goals and values? Are they actually aligned with yours, or do they not really care about what you care about? If you find that they don't care about what you care about, you're going to butt heads later. Obviously work on getting the contractor agreement and understanding all your details. That's par for the course. I think that's great. And then it comes down again to management of just communication. So communicating those after that.
I would also say that in this scenario, the subcontractor's price is not, higher cost does not always mean better. In fact, I don't know if that's actually consistent enough to say that generally means better. So far, with what I've experienced, the lower cost subcontractors have been a lot better. Having said that, another important thing we do is we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. We have multiple subcontractors and we give them bits. You don't just want to rely on one in case, whatever happens, he gets a huge contract somewhere else and has to devote all his time there, or, something happens where you have to split ways, etc. But we also are looking into it for project work as well. we've just looked around for jobs that are too big for us. Like we have one location that wants us to do their ceilings, clean their ceilings. And how many square feet is it?
It's like a 300,000 square foot manufacturing facility with 35-foot ceilings, right? Like that's a great example. It's outside of wheelhouse, man.
So what we've done is we've reached out to a couple different companies, and you make connections by doing that. We found a company we really like. They're really good guys, and we're probably going to have them on board for a lot of our other jobs as well.
Yeah.
Nice. I always, the reason I wanted to ask you guys that, because I know janitorial's your bread and butter, but I also see you guys do like property damage, like water damage, mold, fire damage. And I imagine that there was probably some subcontracting with maybe some specialty services. And I always think it's good to have a small subcontracting arm. Hey, listen, there's like this big debate in janitorial, subcontract versus not subcontract, and it's like actually you can do both, and you're gonna have your primary business. Maybe it's full subcontracting and you have a few internal people, or maybe it's the opposite. I know a lot of people that have more internal people, but then like 10-20% of their business is subcontracting. So I was curious about that because I saw the other specialty services that you guys offer, and I think it's always good insight. All right, guys, this is for the fun question. You guys have been awesome. I mean, we dove deep into the operation side of things, which we don't get the chance to talk about a ton on the show. I know people are going to be reaching out to you guys individually on LinkedIn after this, so just be ready. With that being said, Gavin, I'm going to give you kind of a fun question, and Mike, I'm going to give you a separate one, but also fun. Gavin, for you, would you rather spend a year in prison, or you could figure out a Rubik's Cube, and as soon as you figure it out, you're out of prison? That could take you 5 days or 5 years. What would you choose?
Internally, I would choose the Rubik's Cube option, but I actually do know how to solve Rubik's Cube.
Oh man, damn it! I would probably choose the year in prison. Well, I'm just curious now, Mike. What's your answer to that question?
No, I've never attempted to solve a Rubik's Cube. It's just something I've never done. But yeah, I would totally solve the Rubik's Cube. Yeah,
that's funny. I guess I don't have faith in myself. I'm like, just I'll do my 12 months. I've tried to solve a Rubik's Cube for probably a good 25 years of my life, and I've yet to do it. So anyways, second question. I'll have you both answer it at this point. But Mike, I'll start with you, man. Would you rather, this is funny, this is the second time I've asked this on this show, but it's such a good question. Would you rather spend, like imagine you were dropped off in an abandoned mall and you had to spend a week in there. Would you rather spend a week in an abandoned mall with 10 king cobras, you don't know where they're at, or 2 gorillas?
I mean, it's 2 gorillas, easy.
You don't think a gorilla could open up a door?
Huh?
You don't think a gorilla could open up a door?
I don't think he's going to try.
Okay, interesting. So, okay.
No, they're not particularly aggressive. Okay, I've done a lot of research on this. From what I've read, gorillas are all about show. It's a lot of just presenting yourself as the man. And if you're in a closet, they're not going to come bother you, or something like that. It's not necessarily a closet. We're talking about a mall here. There's so many places to go, and there are only 2 gorillas. I mean, this is a very large area. Yeah. Okay. And then the snakes, I mean, the snakes aren't bad either, to be honest. We're talking about a huge mall. 10 snakes. First of all, they're going to be hiding. They're not on the prowl. Neither of these animals, gorillas or snakes, are on the prowl. You'd open up a can of worms, man. I hope you got another house.
That's so funny.
That's my answer.
What about you, Gavin?
I always choose, this is kind of similar to the 100 duck-sized horses or the 1 horse-sized duck kind of question. I'm always about the
give me the one big one, and we'll take it on, right? So I'll do the gorillas as well. I'm taking the gorillas.
Okay, awesome, man. That's so funny. I don't know what I would do. I think I would probably take the gorillas just because I don't think I could sleep at night knowing like there's a snake somewhere, right? Like just coming through like the HVAC system. Anyways, guys, you guys have been awesome. We're definitely gonna have to do like round 2 of this and get probably unpack some more because I know questions are gonna come at us. For those of people listening, where can they find you? Don't think you have to spell everything out. We're going to link everything at the bottom. But if people want to connect with you after this show, where can they find you guys?
Yeah, LinkedIn, man. My email's on there and it's public. You're welcome to hit me up.
Yeah, we can make sure my LinkedIn's on there too.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you very much. And we will talk to you gentlemen soon.
Cool. Thanks so much, man.